Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something that is, frankly, pretty urgent. A threat that's undermining the very efficiency of global trade.
It really is, and it's not what most people think of. We're not talking about, the usual cyber attacks.
No, this is something much more insidious. We're talking about invisible digital corruption, specifically something called ghost data.
And this ghost data is, in a way, poisoning the global supply chain. It's turning our most efficient automated systems into huge vulnerabilities.
Our deep dive today is built around a whole series of sources that highlight this critical shift. The main vulnerability isn't the firewall anymore.
Not at all. It's a fundamental crisis of trust. Trust in digital identity, trust in the information itself. And that crisis is leading to, devastating real-world physical losses.
And the most powerful evidence of this is the explosion in what analysts are calling phantom freight. It really sounds like something out of a true crime show.
It does. Criminals are stealing millions in physical cargo. We're talking entire truckloads of high-value goods.
But they're not using guns or breaking locks. They're using fake data, forged emails, and just corrupted digital identities.
It's organized, it's cross-border, and it's all happening inside the legal framework of these big logistics platforms. The German Insurance Association has been sounding the alarm on this.
They see it as a new, highly deceptive form of theft.
Exactly. The criminals don't break in, they just show up, and the system lets them in because the paperwork, it looks absolutely perfect.
And the growth rate here is just staggering. It speaks to how profitable and organized this whole thing is.
Look at the numbers. One major consultancy tracked about 80 documented cases across Europe. That's for the entire year of 2022.
Okay, 80 cases.
Right. Now, in just the first 4 months of 2024, that number jumped to 266.
Wow. That's an enormous lead. It suggests they've really perfected the method and are scaling it up.
They absolutely have. The fraud works because it exploits two things: the need for speed in modern logistics and, basic human trust.
So how does it actually work on the ground?
They operate on these online freight platforms. They'll impersonate a legitimate carrier, a real company. But their key tactic is this really subtle identity fraud.
What do you mean by subtle?
They might just alter an email domain, maybe switch a country-specific .pl address to a standard .com, or change one letter in a contact's name.
So they create this near-perfect digital copy of a real company, and then they back it up with pristine forged documents, things like insurance certificates.
Exactly right, high-quality forgeries. So the dispatcher, who's probably dealing with hundreds of loads a day, they see the right company name, the paperwork checks out.
They trust the digital credential.
And they hand over the goods. High-value stuff, copper, electronics, solar panels, even refrigerated food. It all goes to what we're now calling a ghost truck.
And the cargo is just gone, sometimes within minutes, before anyone even realizes the digital identity was a complete fake.
Which brings up a critical question, right? Why the shift? Why is it suddenly so much better for them to target this digital trust layer, the identity and the paperwork, instead of, say, the physical security around a warehouse?
The return on investment must be higher.
Much higher, and the risk is lower. Attackers figured out it's just far easier to fool a person with forged data through a compromised email than it is to get past physical guards or break through a multi-layered firewall.
The path of least resistance.
It's almost always the human or the digital identity layer, and you can see this vulnerability everywhere. Take the way shipping containers are released.
Traditionally, that relied on PIN codes sent over email, right?
Insecure, easily intercepted PIN codes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a massive vulnerability. They get stolen, lost, people type them in wrong. It's a huge security gap that these phantom freight forwarders just walk right through.
And since the whole global supply chain is so interconnected, one vulnerability like that becomes a systemic risk.
Absolutely. We've seen huge firms like DP World get hit by attacks, and a successful attack on just one port can delay fuel, medical supplies. The ripple effect can cascade across continents.
This digital fragility seems to be getting worse with the move towards so-called smart ports. What is the reality of that convergence? How does it create this new kind of problem?
A smart port is basically a hyper-connected ecosystem. For years, you had two separate worlds: IT, information technology, which handles the data and business side.
And OT, operational technology.
Right, the OT. That controls the physical machinery, the cranes, the gates, the stacking systems. In a smart port, those two systems converge. They're in constant communication to maximize efficiency.
So the data about where a container needs to go, the IT, instantly tells the automated crane, the OT, what to do.
Precisely. And here's the critical insight from the sources we looked at. This seamless convergence, for all its efficiency, creates a single point of systemic failure.
Ah, I see. If you can corrupt the IT data.
That corruption immediately causes a catastrophic failure in the physical world, the OT layer. It's not about stealing data anymore. It's about corrupting the data that controls physical reality.
Okay, so this is where we get past simple fraud and into the real technical threat. The poisoned well. If the system is using AI or machine learning for decisions, how do they attack the data that's training that AI?
Now we're talking about adversarial machine learning. The main weapon is called data poisoning.
And that is?
It's the calculated, intentional introduction of deceptive or corrupted data into the huge data sets that train these AI models. The goal isn't to crash the system, it's much more subtle. It's to slowly shift the AI's understanding of reality.
So it's not frontal assault. It's like
Yeah.
it's like gaslighting a supercomputer. You're feeding it these tiny lies until its whole perception of the world is warped.
That's a great way to put it. And the consequences are incredibly dangerous when you're talking about systems that use a digital twin.
The digital twin being a virtual replica of a physical thing like a port or a factory floor.
A dynamic, real-time replica. But if the data feeding that twin is poisoned, it stops reflecting reality. It becomes what some are calling a digital hallucination.
So what's the worst thing that could happen? What's the most dangerous error that this digital hallucination could trigger in a real automated port?
Total chaos and massive liability. The system thinks a container is in section A, it thinks the truck checked in at the gate at 10 a.m., and it thinks the inventory count is right.
But physically,
Physically, the container's gone, the dock is empty, and the gate open for the wrong truck. And the automated systems just keep executing decisions based on that fundamental lie. They're misallocating resources, creating false delivery confirmations. It's a nightmare.
and the sources point out that AI isn't just the victim here. It's also being used to power the attacks themselves.
That's why this is accelerating so quickly. Attackers are using AI-driven malware that can learn and adapt, making it much harder to stop. And we're seeing deepfake-enabled social engineering campaigns now.
Which would bypass any kind of normal human vetting.
Completely. And these attacks are moving beyond IT systems to target OT and supply chains, which, well, they just weren't built with modern cybersecurity in mind. They're easy targets.
Okay, stealing a container is one thing. But the financial sabotage could be so much bigger if this poisoned data is used against systems that predict future demand.
This is where it gets really scary. For a high-level attacker, the ultimate prize isn't the cargo, it's the predictive models inside the supply chain management systems themselves.
Specifically, demand forecasting.
Exactly. This is where you can get massive financial gain through totally invisible manipulation.
And SEM systems rely heavily on AI to predict what we need, what to order. It's critical in every sector, even in pharmaceuticals, where bad forecasting causes shortages of essential drugs.
So now, imagine an attacker. They don't want a truckload of copper. They want market manipulation. They start poisoning the data to suggest that demand for a specific vital component is dropping.
And the AI believes this hallucination. It follows its script and stops ordering parts.
Which leads directly to a production stoppage on a major assembly line because they're suddenly missing a key part.
And that news gets out. The company has to announce production cuts, and if they're publicly traded, the stock price crashes.
And the bad actor who secretly orchestrated the whole thing has already placed a massive short position against that stock. It's the perfect, invisible financial crime.
And there's a real history of this, right? Proof that manipulating market information is incredibly profitable.
Oh, absolutely. Think back to that international hacking ring that was operating between 2010 and 2015. They stole almost 9,000 embargoed news releases from newswire services.
Before they went public. These are earnings reports, merger announcements.
All the market-moving stuff. The traders with that stolen information made over $100 million by front-running the market. And research later showed that up to 50% of the news was already baked into the stock price before the official release.
Which just proves how sensitive the market is to the information feeding it. The crisis isn't just one lost container. It's realizing our whole global system of trade and finance is built on this very fragile, centralized trust.
And that over-reliance on centralized platforms, it creates these single points of failure that just ripple everywhere.
We saw a perfect example of that in July 2024. A faulty software update at one cybersecurity firm, CrowdStrike, grounded over 2,000 flights globally.
Right. It had nothing to do with aviation security, But one problem in one centralized system caused this massive cascading failure worldwide.
So that incident is the perfect argument for why we need to move away from centralized trust towards something more resilient.
Towards decentralized resilience.
Yeah.
And that's where we get to the solution.
How do things like cryptography and blockchain offer a real fix for this problem of corrupted data?
Well, blockchain is basically the antithesis of the current system. It gives you immutable records, transparent data flows, and tamper-resistant transaction logs. It's all secured by cryptographic signatures. If we can't trust the data source, we have to be able to trust its signature and the record of its creation.
I can see how that's vital for verifying credentials. In a sector like aviation, sources say up to 60% of critical documents, licenses, maintenance logs are all fragmented. Fraud is a huge problem.
A tamper-evident audit trail built on crypto proof is the solution. But the real challenge is linking that digital proof to the physical world. And for that, you need something called decentralized physical infrastructure networks.
DeepIn. It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is, but the idea is pretty straightforward. It uses blockchain to give people an incentive to deploy physical infrastructure sensors, compute nodes, cameras in a permissionless way. It decentralizes the act of observation itself.
So you get a verifiable observation layer that agrees on what's happening in the real world. A great example of this for the ghost truck problem is a system like Witness Chain. They use a network of independent nodes they call watchtowers.
Right, the watchtowers. What they achieve is something called proof of location, or POL.
So how do they verify a physical location? It can't just be one GPS signal.
No, it's much smarter. They use cryptographic pings and telemetry-based measurements, like the precise time delay between signals, to get a decentralized consensus on an asset's real-world location.
So if the data inside the system says a container is in Hong Kong, but the decentralized network of watchtowers cryptographically proves its last ping was in Singapore.
The system knows the data is a lie. The transaction stops. That's the power of verifiable observation. And the security is backed by staked assets, making it way too expensive for one person to corrupt the consensus.
And this is already happening. You mentioned T-mining in the port of Antwerp. How do they use this to fix that insecure PIN code problem?
They built a secure container release solution on blockchain. They replaced the vulnerable PIN code with a digital pickup right, a token recorded on a distributed ledger. Only the current cryptographically proven owner of that token can get the container.
It just solves the digital identity fraud problem instantly.
And it does it while keeping commercial data private, which is crucial. The relationship between the shipper and the carrier stays private, visible only to them.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We started with this crime of phantom freight. We saw how automated systems are vulnerable to data poisoning.
And we've learned the battle for global trade isn't about stopping hackers from stealing secrets anymore. It's about preventing them from lying to our critical systems. We need a chain of custody for data itself.
We have to know its origin, its history, its status, all cryptographically verified. The integrity of that first data point is what the entire, $28 trillion global economy rests on. But this all leads us to a final, pretty provocative thought.
The World Economic Forum says misinformation and disinformation are among the most severe global risks we face, capable of manipulating markets and eroding trust on a massive scale.
So if these same cryptographic principles and verifiable observation layers can secure a container's physical location, what role could that same technology play in mitigating the global risk of digital misinformation that poisons our public sphere?
The principles are the same. If we can verify the truth of a physical observation, imagine applying that to any digital observation. That verifiable truth could fundamentally change our resilience against digital sabotage. But that is a deep dive for another time.